the time, and you should at least show them that respect.
I totally agree because like I've been applying to internships and I'm like, am I even doing this right? Like I feel like I'm like, like I would like some sort of feedback. And then a couple of applications I've applied to, they've like sent me an email and it's like, oh, like, hey, like we've received your application, like I like that. Like some
Yeah.
applications I apply to and it's just nothing. And I'm like, did I do it right? Like, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And the confirmation emails are nice and stuff. And I just don't like, again, it's one thing I totally understand. Not every role is going to be a good fit, but like, really, like, you get a real person to do it. I understand that people are very busy, but I mean, it at least gives the candidate an opportunity to say, like, hey, thanks so much for your time. And, thank you for considering me, because then otherwise it feels like the door's like just slammed in your face.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
What is-
Good afternoon. You don't have to stop the conversation because I'm here,
Oh, I
but
wasn't sure.
but I can tell that it's already 1:35.
Yeah.
But no, I feel like I'm spying on you, but this is all very valid concern.
Yeah.
Oh, I was basically just saying how I did a take-home exercise for an internship, and I went through all the bother. Like, they made me sign an NDA and all kinds of stuff. Like, it was an actual, like, legit
Mm.
thing. And so it wasn't, they decided not to pursue my application, but instead of a real human being reaching out to me and telling me this, they sent it from, like, it specifically says in the subject of the email, Shopify, do not reply. And I'm like, what? Why would you say, why? Like, I did all this work
Mm.
for you for free. You don't even have the decency to have a human being say to me, sorry, we're not interested. Because at least then you can follow up with them and be like, oh, no problem, but sort of like, thanks anyways. At least you have like a real person to sort of like close the door. Instead, it felt very impersonal, that it was just especially after going through all the pre-screening and all of that stuff. It was like, I've already been in touch with somebody. Why can't you just put me in touch with that same person? But no, I wasn't allowed. So I was like, oh, okay, well.
Yes, no, we can definitely talk about, and I can share with you what some of my story has been too. But well, first of all, welcome to our class. It's already Tuesday. It's 12:35, 36. We have a lot of content to cover, but thank you for being here and thank you for joining. And I love hearing those conversations. And you guys are always welcome to come before class so that you can talk, because I know you're not meeting in person. But so from what I understand from you, Sarah and Brett, is you've been applying and it sounds like you've been going through the process with Shopify, Sarah, and then they finally said thank you, but it was just still like all computer, like you didn't talk to
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah, so what had happened was I was going through the process. I went through, they approved my application and all this stuff, and then they said, okay, hey, you have to do this take home, you have to do this like exercise thing. They made me sign a non-disclosure agreement, so I wasn't even allowed to talk about it.
Mm, yeah.
And after they sort of like, they didn't even really confirm that they had received it. I had sent it to them, and then the line sort of went dead for about a week, and then I got a do not reply email saying, sorry, but no. But it wasn't even really that polite. It was just sort of like, yeah, we're not going to pursue this, but by the way, don't even respond to this because nobody's going to look at it. And it was kind of like, oh, that's, I don't know. It felt like, I understand, when their systems don't match you and you get sort of rejected like right off the bat. I know they have all kinds of like systems in place for that. But the fact that I had already been in touch and I was sort of already going through the process, and then they just sort of like cut me off like that with no, they literally said to me in the email, do not reply to this email, nobody will see it. It's like,
I hate
oh,
that.
Yeah,
okay.
where like how does that leave you like in terms of the brand, right? About Shopify. You see, like it's unfortunate because you guys are the next generation, right? So how do you feel about this? Tell us.
How do I feel? Well, I'm a Shopify partner. I do freelance design for people, and I've been using the Shopify platform and recommending it to my
Mhm.
freelance clients for the last 3 years, and I've used it. I currently use it myself. Like, I pay Shopify $30 a month to host my website, so
Mhm.
it's kind of, I understood last year what happened. It was COVID, and they basically said, "Okay, sorry, but because of COVID and like everything's all we don't we're sort of just like suspending this right now." And I understood that. I got that. But this time around, it was a little bit further down the line in the process, and it was very disappointing because Shopify's supposed to be like, "Oh yeah, we're for the people and we're a culture of the people." And I don't know. I just maybe something happened internally. Maybe the person, you know, had extra workload and they weren't able to send a response. I don't know what the situation is. So I sort of I'm trying to be
Mhm.
empathetic, but at the same time I'm like, it would have taken 5 minutes just to send a quick email saying, you know, hi real person, this is another real person saying, just to let you know, I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know. I'm
well,
rambling.
no, but listen, Sarah, and I think you're probably not the only one. Like, I'm sure there maybe we have other students that have similar experiences. At the end of the day, it's still about being, feeling that there's a personal connection that people care about the people. So you went down the process. You actually invested some of your time too. And now, what you may want to, remember that episode when you're going to be the next hiring manager or the next leader who's going to be hiring people. How important that still connection, that little moment of, picking up the phone and say, Sarah, we really appreciate your time. You were a very strong candidate for X reasons. Maybe this is not the good timing, but we'd like to, like, see how that will leave you, right? It will be a completely different experience even though you use the product. So just remember this. You'll be empowered to do that at some point too in your career. And I would
Mhm.
say when you go this far in the process and someone has done the pre-screening and you've done tests online and all of this, I think at this point, like, you have a one-on-one connection. And I think technology should not be the one, the use to thank people. And I think there should be a phone call. And I understand that sometimes, and you will face that. They can't give you a lot of specifics, but still, you're okay. But just getting a phone
Yeah.
call is better, right? So
Exactly.
remember doing it.
Exactly. That was sort of how I felt. And listen, like not every job is going to be the right fit for everybody, and I get that. Like I totally
Mhm.
fully understand that. I'm not like offended in any way. I'm just more bothered that on their sort of outside perspective is like, "Oh yeah, we're very like people oriented," but then I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. Like am I disappointed? Yeah, but at the same time I understand that not every fit is going to be not every role is going to be the right fit for the right person, and it's very difficult to make that decision with so many applicants. So I have empathy for that. Like I've had to hire somebody before. It's not easy. But
Yeah.
the candidates that when I was hiring, like I called everybody. I said, listen, if they made the time to actually come out and be interviewed and prepare an
Yes.
application and all this stuff, it's literally the least I can do. It's the base level of respect I can give them, even if I'm not offering them a job.
Absolutely. So I'm sorry you have to go through this, and I think that during COVID, it's it's not a unique story, and I've seen it, I've heard it, I've heard companies are taking advantage. So think of this. It's like competition, right? If you have a lot of competition, you have to be nice to your customer. If you don't have a lot of customer, you have to be even more nice. But if the customer don't have a lot of choices, this is where you can be a little bit more mean as a brand. It happens, right? So employer have a lot of choices. There are a lot of us, a lot of people that are looking for a job. I'm not, because I love the teaching, but the I've applied, and sometimes you hear back, sometimes you don't hear back, and you actually go through down the process and you hear back and you don't get that phone call too. I think it's very, very, very contextual. I think of COVID, companies have taken advantage and they know that they're a lineup, and then unfortunately they forgot about the human side of. And what they forgot is, you will remember in a month, you will remember in 6 months, you remember in a year, they will be looking for talent, there'll be shortage, and you will remember, and you'll be able to make a choice and a decision of, you know, uh, am I prepared to go through the same process again? But maybe I should share them feedback and say, you know what? Great, I would be prepared to apply again with you, Shopify, but here's what happened last time. And that is what, I'm hearing about your brand. You're saying that you're about people, but really day to day, you're not, because you just sent me a do not reply. That is not about people for me at personal level, right? So just remember this, and yes, it's happening, and we've seen it. And what you will see, there are a lot of companies that are asking people to do test and online testing and online testing and online testing. That I have never really seen it, but we're seeing more and more because I think they're getting a lot of applicants, so they're trying to filter. But remember, one day, and you've already done it, Sarah. It's not always easy to hire people, like you said, hire people, but you can choose to treat people the way you would want to be treated in that situation. And if it means a quick phone call for you, do it. Do it. People will be appreciative. You never know. You never know. We are all connected, especially in UX. We're a small community, and we know a lot of people that we don't know that know each other. And then when you do good work, people will know, and people will remember you for that too. So yeah, but it's unfortunately it's really happening. We're seeing more and more of this. So too bad. What I say, it's too bad for Shopify, or too bad for Amazon, or too bad. Something will come and you'll go, okay, now I understand why this has happened. And this will happen throughout your career. You will come to times where you have to make choices, or sometimes choices are made for you. But later on, the answer will come and you'll say, okay, if I was still doing this, perhaps I would not be, either teaching, or I would not have learned or decided to do a course that would have taken me to different places. So just treat people the way you would want to be treated, and no one will blame you for that. Yes, so learning and then moving on, and then doing what you want to do, I think, is really key. So we're going to talk about culture and values, but as I was going through the class content about culture and values, there's so much content that we may actually split this class in culture and then perhaps next week values. And as I said, this is a new class, so we can decide how much content and the content that we want to cover. But I think culture is very important, but value is very, very insightful. And I will share you when we get to value a little story about me and how it helped, and how it still helped me in what I do in my career choices, and how it's very, very powerful in helping you to make decisions. So, but we're going to talk about culture and values, but then perhaps today we have Brett, who will introduce the topic, and he's probably all anxious. I could talk a little bit about assignments, but I think I will invite Brett to come forward and then share with us what he's learned from the topic, if that's okay with you, Brett. And again, there's no expectation here. It could be a video, it could be anything. And I know Sarah put the bar very high when she did her little topic intro, but the floor is yours. So you tell us if there's something you want to share it. But I'm anxious. We're excited. So you go.
Of course. Thank you so much. So I'm gonna keep it light and simple today. I'm going for like a chill ease into the lesson. So after the little bit of research that I did, so I'm talking about cultures and values in organizations. And these two definitely go hand in hand. Like, I believe that this is the make it or break it to a
Mm-hmm.
company or an organization. Um, is something that I wrote down is an organization's culture. It defines the proper way to behave within the organization. So we have already seen this. Think of Lucy for an example. Think of her experience with Rogers that she was with,
Mm-hmm.
you really have to read the room, if that makes sense. You really
Yep.
have to like learn like what the collective, like the company as a whole, you really need to learn what they appreciate, what they look for, what they want, what they need, and that those values turn into the company's culture. So I'm going to use my part-time job as an example. So I work at
Mm-hmm.
Rexall. I work in a pharmacy. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard that before.
Of course.
So yeah. So I've been working there for like 3 years now, and I've really noticed in the last few years that Rexall is really trying to push equality and diversity. They're really like trying to like take a stand against like racism or discrimination. Like whether they like publicize it at first like to the public,
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed it especially from the employee. Like we'll get flyers all the time in the break room on like talks about equality and racism and discrimination in the workplace and what to do if you see discrimination in the workplace. And I feel like, especially with everything that happened in 2020 with BLM and the protests and stuff, it has only picked up. So that is an example of a culture in a company, you know? Like, obviously, and this isn't just Rexall, but if you're going to discriminate in the workplace, especially in Rexall, you know, you're not going to stick around, you know, because you're not abiding by that culture. You're not abiding by those values. Like a corporation's culture is usually made up of a company's success in the past, and this bleeds into the values and the overall performance and behavior. So Rexall obviously has succeeded in with equality and stuff, and it is doing well as a company. Um, sorry.
I said that's great. That's great. The company is doing well. What about the employees? How do you see about the employees in terms of those values, or how the employees feel about the brand and those values?
I think they're all for it. Like I can only speak for my store specifically because
Yeah.
yeah, but I believe that everybody is all for it. Like it's a very diverse workforce, you know. I think that everybody tries to uplift one another and really like leave discrimination at the door. Like don't even bring it in, you know? If that makes sense. Like I think they really appreciate it. Um and I also wanted to use like just as like another culture or values an example, like look at Roots for an example.
Yeah.
Like their culture, you know, they're a company that has been around for a very long time, and they're really focused on like, you know, like the Canadian aspect, you know, like the homegrown. That's really what I got from the interview with them. Like that's another example of like their culture. They're really focused on like Canadian and just like helping one another and being completely transparent and going for that mobile experience. And I believe that they really value learning and also having fun. And just to end on that note, what I want you all to think about today, and obviously Eve will expand upon this, is just what a company like reading the room, you know, like what you see from a company, like what they appreciate, what they look for, and just what their overall culture is. And that's it.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Brett. This is it, right? Like you want to leave us with that little think fast, food for thought to think about when we talk about culture and values. Like how do we even assess a culture and values, and what kind of feeling are we left with when we leave the room, or when we leave the room and we leave Zoom or Teams after a meeting? What do we see, and what do we feel about the culture, and what do we even feel about the people? That's great. Thank you. Is there anything else, Brett, that you wanted to mention, or this covers well what you wanted to share with us?
No, that's pretty much everything from me, but that's totally what I was going for. Like I just really, it's more like a thinking. That's the thought that I wanted to leave with you guys.
Love it. Well, I mean, this class and teaching for me is about teaching real life and what happens. So I love how you brought your experience at Rexall and how what you've seen at Roots, and Rexall, really believe in diversity and inclusiveness and inclusive people, and people feeling good and people happy being at work and feel that they're part of work, and that you, as you said, you're abiding to the values, and you believe in those values, and it actually helped probably the employees to feel better and happier. But they're not just saying it, they're doing it, right? You
Yes,
said
definitely.
they keep sending us flyers, and we hear, they remind us how important. And when they send you those flyers, if you're someone who's not really inclusive and not comfortable with discrimination, it probably forces you to think about, is this the right place for me or not,
Of
right?
course.
So you're assuming and hoping that the people that are there have made that choice, and they knew going in. But the risk that sometimes happens is, and I think we've seen it with Sarah, she's mentioned that Shopify will say it's all about people. But at the end of the day, her experience is getting a do not reply because no one's going to read it. But we thank you for the time, but really don't answer back because no one will care or will answer. Doesn't leave with a good taste, and then makes you think and makes you rethink about, right? So that to me is what you said. You're leaving the room with just a little bad taste. And now, depending on how advocate you are to the brand, you will even defend them, or you will say, well, I believe, and it's all very valid. But at the end of the day, it's still not acceptable. It's still not acceptable that we forget about people and we use technology. At the end of the day, the people are the people, and we are the value, we are the culture, we are who's going to make the company successful. You've mentioned they're doing well, Roots is doing well, but it's because of the people. It's because of the people that are there, and it's the choices. We make choice. We make a choice to apply to a business. We make the choice to actually go and work for a business because we believe in what they've said that they were all about. Now, the challenge is sometimes we get to a company and it's not really what they've said that they were all about. When you start digging in and when you start experiencing and when you start seeing what some people are doing or what some of the top executive of management is doing or not doing, this is where sometimes you start questioning about really if they're really about people, if they're really about the customer. And then, as you said, Lucy had challenges. So and perhaps maybe she did not really understood the entire culture of Rogers. But there's also how prepared are you to the values and the culture of a certain business? And it's hard. It's really hard to even know because they're not going to tell you necessarily that maybe the culture is problematic and there's challenges. So we have to find ways. You have to find ways to actually really assess the culture. And I would say that you can get some hints when you do the interview. You can set some hints when you get the email, the tone that they use. Are they on time for your meeting? If they're not on time, if they're unprepared, if they don't even know who they're interviewing for, that will be all signs. Are they really? They should know your name? They should know what you've done. And if you come to a job interview and you have a manager who's confused between who you or someone else, and they're not really listening and they're on the phone when you're actually answering to them, these are all those signs that you have to really think through. And one of my coach told me that at the beginning of last year. She said, Yves, pay attention to where you're going to go, and the choice that you will make about a business is really important because it will make Lucy succeed or Lucy actually fail. Lucy was very successful in her previous job. She had the skills. Same thing. You are all very strong, right? You're all going to come. You learn a lot from school, and you're all doing well, and you will and this will make you confident, and you have to have that confidence. But the people and the organization and the structure and the things that they value and the things they care about may actually make it a challenge or not for you as individuals. So this is all connected to there's culture and there's value to the business, but it's also about you and what is important to you. So we're going to talk some more about this. But Brett, you've done a very, very good intro, and I like how you said I'm going to go in light, in like our style. I think that's part of our culture, part of our value, right? So I want this class to feel that this is a safe place and a place where it's a discussion, it's sharing what we've learned. It's like going to a conference or listening to a panel. I don't often really talk about theory, but I know some teachers will, and I'm not judging. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure that you guys are able to connect what we learn in class with something that maybe you care about, so that you feel that you can take it and you can apply it. And I find that sometimes a theory is it's a little bit sometimes difficult to connect. But that's my choice, that's my culture, that's my value. So I'm making choices of how I actually teach, but it's also based on what I'm comfortable with, but what I think that people will be interested in. So we are all culture and we are all values, and everybody has culture and everybody has values. So that's going to be our topic. Are there any questions from the class to Brad, or in terms of his experience at Rexels, or comment about maybe what we've seen from Roots in relation to culture? This is a good time as well. We can ask Brad if there's anything you guys want to have more clarity. Okay, so we're going to talk about, obviously, we're going to talk about culture and values, and I think we're probably just going to be able to talk a little bit about culture. The class is being recorded, and before we actually really talk about culture, I want to bring your attention to the assignment. So, and why I created the assignment. I'm just going to share my screen with you. So what I found is this is based on feedback that I received from the class as well. So a company culture has to be open to feedback, and if you're not, then it suggests that you either don't care, or you think that your decision, your way is the best way, and you don't really want to listen to input. So that will tell you something about company culture too. But I have received feedback that from some students that there was a bit of confusion on what people need to do, when things are due, and what we're supposed to do, and then how we're going to be even marked. So I think it was very fair. It was a fair set of questions and a fair concern, because you are in the school, and the school has taught you that there are assignments that due dates, and then you know exactly what to do and when to do. And you have many of those assignments and many class projects you have to do that, and I respect that. So what I have done is I had to find a way so that people contribute. Some people have been contributing more than others, and I will say it's because I have put responsibility, and then we have some teams that are more involved in the discovery stages, and then I asked everybody should collaborate. But I do know that you have a lot to plan, so I thought I would maybe try to help you, and I will help you to know what you should do and what you're expected for that particular assignment, the number of points, and the due date. So this is why I introduced two things. One thing that is believed is due for this week, the Roots project plan. So everything is under assignment. So if you go to Collaborate, you go to assignment, you will see the Roots project plan. We've created the plan. I say it's 90%. We still need to define some details for the subsequent phases. At least we have a sense of stage activities, and we know exactly, most likely, what we're doing in February. And some of you have been very, very actively engaged. And I don't see everything that is happening, and that's okay. And I do know that everybody has been reaching out, or you've been helping and you've been supporting. But I have to give you an assessment for project plan, and then you need to know how you did as well. So I created the project plan as an assignment. You have to submit those answers to the question by the 11th. So that is this Thursday, and by midnight. So I'm asking you a set of questions that will help you to understand your contribution to the project plan, and then what you're currently working on as a project plan. What challenges maybe you encounter during the project plan creation. And I want you to be honest. And then also I have a question about what did you learn about Roots so far? And then you can refer to our class topics, or just your general impression about the company or the brand or the people. So these will help me to know what you've done, and maybe where you had challenges, what you've learned from creating the project plan, and if you're clear on what you should be doing at this particular moment. And if you're not, then this is a time, and then we'll be able to make some adjustments. This will help me to give you a mark out of 8.75. Obviously, if your contribution was minimum, well, that will have an impact on the mark. But if you do a good job to explain to me maybe why that has happened, then this is where we can discuss the point allocation. Now, for those of you that have really been involved, and I know for some of you more than others, then I say you don't need to spend a lot of time, because I will know what the contribution is. But everybody has to submit, and then that will be your opportunity to tell me feedback, and also what you've done for project plan and how clear you are. Now, there is another assignment, but before I go to this other assignment, are there any questions particularly about the project plan? Those answer questions, or anything unclear?
Is it okay if we just sort of submit it as like a typed out, like a document? We can just send you a PDF of it, or do you want us to put it in like the discussion board or something like that?
No, I want a submission. Good question, Sarah. I
Okay.
want a submission.
Okay.
So use this this assignment, and you can submit through this assignment. When you click on it, then you can submit, right? You can go, and then you can submit your assignment. You can attach a file. Attach a file. Any format. It can be a link to a G Drive document. It could be a PDF. It could be a Word. Anything. I'm not going to prescribe. It could be PowerPoint. It's really up to you. So I don't think you need to spend a lot of time on this particular one, but just submit through through Blackboard and then through this assignment, and then you pick a format of your choice. So if there are any questions about this class, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to answer. There is another assignment or lab, I will call it the lab, and perhaps tomorrow we'll spend on time. I'll give you some time to work on this piece. So heuristic evaluation, we have to, that was an activity, and Sumit is in charge in the discovery. He's on the team that is actually has put his name next to heuristic, but everybody is to contribute or collaborate and give some input. But I know it's a challenge, but unfortunately I've said, I think I need to create a specific task in an assignment, and then I gave 4 points for that assignment. It's due by Friday midnight. And then I've also put the instruction on what I'd like for you, each one, to do when it's time to do the heuristic evaluation for roots.ca. I will not go through the details in this class, but I would really invite you, please, to go through. And if you have any questions, tomorrow we can talk about it. But you have until Friday midnight to do your quick heuristic evaluation of roots.ca in the context of a user goal, and I give you some user goals. So I'd like for everybody to review it. And if you have any questions, and then tomorrow we're going to find some time to work on that. I could not think of any other option to really to help the class that wasn't really clear on what do I submit, when do I submit, and how do I get points, don't I get points. I thought that was probably the easiest for clarity, and also to make sure that everybody's contributing for that particular activity, and that will help submit, and then we will consolidate. This will become one of the deliverables for Roots, and we're 13, so I know there will be a lot of good insight that will come out. So go through it, and if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy. But I wanted to bring your attention, so at some point today or after this class, please go read in more details, and if there are any questions, reach out, or we can talk about it tomorrow. Now I'm going to turn over to today's topic. Are we good? Okay, we understand why this. I did not want to have to go as being so prescriptive. I was really hoping I would not have to go to a drop date and submit date, but I feel that this is going to be pretty much what I've been hearing from some of the class members. So now you know that there's specific activities you have to do and how many points and what you're expected to do. You can pick the format that you want. But I did put a template for the heuristic, and then there's competitive analysis or feature set analysis that will be for the following week. You can look at it. I think it's available online too. But this week is heuristic, and then I need to get your input on project plan. Culture and values. Culture is something that unites people. Culture does more than just uniting people, but it's really, really powerful. And then we're going to learn more about culture and values. But what is culture? So anybody has an idea of, when you hear the word culture, what comes to mind when you hear the word culture? You can say it loud, you can say it in chat, or you can actually type it on screen in the white space as well. I put rules. Connection. Yes, values, empathy. Yeah, so we're hearing a mix of values, right? It's hard to detach culture and values. Again, we've learned organizational behavior is made up of multiple things, but we know that there's something happening at the individual level. So we are individuals, we are part of the culture. The company itself, the structure of an organization, the group, the teams, the people. So, and the structure and the processes, it's all of that will sum up to a company culture. Yes, connection, empathy, the human element, the co-creation, absolutely. So we're going to learn a lot more about culture and what culture is. And thank you for introducing us to to culture. The power of values. I'm going to leave values out, but I wanted to do a quick story. But we've said values. We'll say when we hear culture, we hear values. I did an exercise about values 20 years ago, and it's still following me. And it's amazing how strong values and defining your career and thinking about your career or what is important to you in life based on your value. Little of it will change and it will carry through your decisions. And this is really me. This, you see, there's a stapler. There's maybe 10 or 15 pages. But uh, I went through a similar exercise of looking at what was important to me as a person, as an individual, 20 years ago, just before I actually engaged in my MBA, my Master's of Education, which I told you in software UX. And this is where I've learned everything that you guys are learning, but on my own program, because there was not necessarily a program at that time. But this has been following me, and strange enough, it was at my mom's, and maybe several years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, my mom said, "I found this from you," and she's like, "I don't know what it is," and then I was like, "Wow!" I completely forgot that I had written this down. But my manager at the time, she had all of her employees to actually go through an exercise of what the future will look like for you from a career perspective. And why she did this is she wanted to connect our work to us, what matters to us. She wanted to connect us to a purpose. She wanted to connect us to her team, and she wanted to get to know us better so she can support. She can support me, she can support the colleagues, and everybody is different. We all come from different places. We all come from different baggages. This is why companies say diversity, inclusiveness. We know little, you know little about me, but there's a lot that has happened. I know little about you, but there's a lot that has happened. But if you don't know what is important to you, what you value, it's going to be really hard for us to know how do we help you, how do we support you, how does your manager supports you, and also how you make choices. So I've going through this document on a regular basis, and the power of having something written down is really, really powerful. And I will tell you, pretty much everything here I am in, or I have done, or it's what I have been doing through my career, and it's what's been guiding me in my decisions of career choices. And every time that I've made a choice about my career, it's always been about, is this going to take me closer to my ultimate goal? Is this going to take me closer to my goal and the things that I said I would set to myself? So I would really encourage you, and I've put some slides for values, specifically the values, to do similar exercises, and I probe you with some questions you should ask. Maybe I will make a part of this in your reflection, but I would say it start from you, and it start from knowing you as an individual, and which this class is about to teach, because we don't have a lot of classes in UX of design that is actually focusing on you as an individual. So this is an opportunity to do it to yourself. It's a gift. I would say this will be a very, very good gift. It's not easy, but it's really, really useful. And there's a link to an article that gives you more details about what does it mean to be true to yourself as well. So, and then I love this picture from that specific article where believe in yourself, be you, believe in yourself. There's so much in that little sentence, and you've seen it, you've heard it, but be you. Brett said, I can be who I am when I'm at Rexel. I don't feel that, there's something that will jump at me or discriminate against me, or feel that I'm not being included, or I'm not important, or feeling that whatever, there could be consequences, or I'm being penalized, or not being treated fairly as anybody else should be. And not only speaking, but doing as well. So being you, believing in yourself, believing in who you are is key, but you first need to know who you are as a person, what is important. And it's also how you react, how you respond in good times, and how you respond in bad times. Where do you go when things are not good? Where do you go when things are good? What makes you happy? What makes you upset? And then what do you do when you're upset? What do you do when you fear something? And it's hard. It's easy for me. It sounds like it's so easy, and I am in control, and I know it all, but I don't. But you have to know that this is actually affecting you as a person. So the researcher researched in this article. I've taken this specific extract from this article. So there's a lot of research that says that when people have a clear set of core values, and that was the purpose of my little exercise that I showed you that has been my plan for 20 years plus. It's easier to make big life decisions around pursuing passions, long-term career goals in relationships. So this helps you not just at school. This will help you in your career. This will help you in your relationship as well. Even in choosing who are my friends, who is my partner, who is the person that I actually want to be side by side, if that's a choice that I make. I may want to choose to be alone because I enjoy being alone. But you need to have, and you've all made a career choices, and then for some of you, it may be very, very clear where you want to go. Some of you may still be wondering, where is this going? Even there, where is this class going, right? So, but how you connect it and how you connected something important to you, I think will help you, but you need to start from somewhere. There are less, when you have your core values, and the core values are so strong that they will go back to very, very far in your lifetime. And we're gonna learn the culture of the values are actually taught. So you learn values, you learn about values, and they all vary. There's international culture, international values, but some of them are consistent, universal. So they will guide you and they stay. When I look back at this little plan that I have for myself, I'm amazed how much of this hasn't changed about what I want for me because, and I think the only explanation is it's fundamentally based on the things that are important to me in the choice of the values that I've set that have guided me. But I've moved, I had different relationships, I moved cities, I changed jobs, I had friendships, new friendship, old friendship. Like there was so much around me. But when I look at the things that I said that I would do, it's happening. It has happened. It's still what my life is, and there's still more to come. So it's really, really powerful, and it's actually reassuring too. But you have to be open to maybe have to change, but you will, I don't know that the values will necessarily change. So very, very, very powerful. Culture. So this book called The Culture Code, I don't know if anybody has read this particular book, but very, very nice book. I haven't read all of it, but there's some very, very good stories and case studies in it. Culture from Latin means care. So care. What do we care? What does a company care about? Do we care about people? Do we care about customer? Do we care about our money? Do we care about our processes? But it's about caring. And when I said earlier, it's hard to detach culture and values. They're together, but I think they deserve um, to be looked at separately, but you will see that they are all very related. But culture means caring. What do we care? And Sarah said, they say they care about their people, but really do not reply. Like, and Brett said, it's not about just about saying, it's about doing. So culture is everything that we have. So it's about the things that we own. It's the thing that we have around us. I'm digital, but I have this notebook, so part of me is probably attached to my past. Or we make choices about things that we have. In one of the exercises I gave you for questions or hints to pick the values, because there are like 200 and plus values. And you're going to have to go from top 20, top 10 to top 5 to your top 3 to your top 2 values. So I have my 2 top values, and then I think my 2 top values, and this is about sharing and being vulnerable. It's the recognition, so feeling that I'm being recognized for my hard work or for the work or for the person that I am. And the other one is the intellectual property or intellectual knowledge. So being curious and wanting to learn and wanting to always feel that there's something there that I don't know, and there's who knows that there are a lot of things that we don't know. And having that curiosity, I think we're very, very at the core and central of my decisions. And I think when you look at what I said that I would want my future to be, or which is my current future, I think being curious and learning, and then the recognition and feeling that what I do makes a difference, I think have helped me, and then has guided me. So, but I went from like 20, 25 to 30 to 10 to 50 to 5 and 3 and 2 values. It's really, really difficult, but I really encourage all of you to do it. Culture is everything we think. So it's ideas, it's values, it's beliefs, it's everything that we do. So it's one thing to say we believe and our values are, but if you do the complete opposite, if your management doesn't really behave in such a way that you said that you, then you're sending the wrong message. You're actually lying and you're not being true to yourself. So going through your list of values and knowing what values are important to you is also being true to yourself. Be yourself, be you. And then no one's gonna, you're never gonna get in trouble for being who you are. But of course you have to adapt to the context and where you are. But Brett said, culture is about defining how we behave. And I think it's very important. It's doing, but it's also how we think and what we have. And you will understand that there are different culture, but there's different axes for the culture, and you will know that everything around it is just symptomatics. But it's about what they think, how companies think about employees will define the amount of processes that they have to have or no processes, the amount of trust. That is what we often hear as culture. But it starts from how do they view employees? Do they think that people are actually lazy, or do they think that people will come and have the motivation to work? Then you don't need to have as much processes. But if you have management that thinks that employee need to be rewarded and reward constantly to be able to do good work, then maybe they're going to do a lot of reward, but they may actually realize that it's maybe the wrong reward too. So what is important to you, what you value is as important. It's not just the reward itself. Collectively and shared as well. So Brad mentioned culture is something that people are sharing collectively. So it has to be shared by 2 or more people, and it goes with the value as well. And that culture is something we do, not something you are. So you are, sorry, typo. It's something that we do. It's not something that we are. And the culture code also talks about building safety, feeling safe. I have a reading this week that talks about Google has done a lot of research on safety and the impact of being safe. And I did say that in this class, I want you to feel safe. This is a time to learn. This is a time to try. And I think it's more about trying and not being afraid. This is why I said I'd like to have people that introduce the topic. And for some of you, maybe coming forward is a big thing. It was for me too. When I was a kid, I had stomachache. I've learned that that it was probably fear. But I had a lot of intimidation when I was a kid. So I think I was just afraid of being in front of people because I was intimidated. I think just came to me. That just came to me. But that is about being transparent and vulnerable as a manager, as a leader, as well. But now I feel good because I feel that what I do is making a difference. Sharing vulnerability, I just mentioned, and establishing purpose. So we have to believe in who we work for. You have to believe in the team. You have to believe in the mission. You have to believe in the cause as well. But that knowing your values and knowing what's more important for you may help you to decide, am I going to work for a nonprofit? Am I going to work for a startup? Am I going to work for a company who's been very well established, but they're so big that they have all these processes, but maybe this is not necessarily aligned with me? But having a common purpose, feeling safe, and sharing vulnerability will help build great culture. 122, and this class goes on till 125. I'm always amazed how fast it goes. Are there any questions or comments? You guys are pretty quiet, but I know I'm talking a lot, but feel free to come forward. Any experiences as well, please feel free to share. And as I said, culture is what you do, what you have, and what you think. It's a very, very important topic, in fact, indeed, and that's why I think I want to split it as well, because I think it's very important. To me, it's the foundation. So when we say a question of perception, so how we think, so when we think of company culture, companies have certain things in place. They have a structure in place based on what they believe, their beliefs. It's what they think. So it will depend. So the culture will depend on how management view their people, how they view their customer, how they view their markets, how they view their partners. If there's no competition, then they'll think that there are essentials and there's no other options. They will have a completely different attitude, or they'll be different with their partners versus someone who's maybe just a starter who doesn't have relationship who doesn't have partners, they will behave very different. They will actually feel that they have to build that nice relationship and those good connection with partners to even find supplier to work with them. But if you're big and you're arrogant, you're gonna and you know that there's gonna be 1,000 people who will be applying on the job that you want to apply, you can actually not be as nice than the one who's actually struggling getting people applying to their job. So it's unfortunate for when you think of Shopify, but remember, keep it. They started one day, they were small. They were a startup. Nobody knew about them. They had a challenge of getting people. Companies forget too quickly where they came from. So, and that's unfortunate, but you are going to be that company. You are going to be that person. You are going to be the culture. You are going to be the value. So you can have an impact on your area. You can have an impact on how you treat people. You can have an impact on how you leave people who you choose that may not be the good timing. But technology will never replace it, and it will send a message about who you are as a person too, and people will remember you individually. And the good people, if you think about who do you care the most about, like who is that person, maybe you want to think about that as well as we leave. Who is the person that you care the most, and why is that person very important in your life? And see if you can relate it to culture and values, and what has attracted you to them, and what was so good about them. How do they think, and what did they think of you? What did they think of you? Maybe that's going to help you about thinking about what's important to you, but why do you like them, and what's so unique about them? It's 1:25, so we have to go, but tomorrow we're going to come back. So tomorrow we're going to have, I say we're going to continue on this topic. It's a big, long topic, but I think this is going to go for 2 weeks, culture and values. And it's the foundation, and then I want you to look at it from the lens of a company. I want you to look at you from the lens of you as individual, but you are your toolkit. So you know good about UX, but now it's time to think about you, and this is the gift. And we'll see you tomorrow, and then tomorrow we're also going to talk about roots. I just want to say quickly, we've done a lot of good work in 3 weeks. Now we're in week 4, but I was really, really pumped, and I'm still very pumped about roots. But I feel that I have more answers and more clarity. I don't know about you, but tomorrow we're going to have a chance to talk about this. I want to get a pulse of where we are. And but I feel very, very good. So you may feel very different, but we've learned a lot, and I will tell you because I know how long these things take. But we had a kickoff, we have a setup, we have folders, we have a plan, we know where we're going. We are already very engaged in activities. It's happening. It is happening as we speak. So I hope you're gonna have a good afternoon. And if there are any questions, please connect with me. And yes, Thomas, you and I can connect now. And I can be around. I'm around too. So if anybody wants, happy. But the deck is available for today, and there are like 45 slides. I encourage you to go through, and you can start some of the exercises. I put like a lot of exercises in there for you, but please make sure you start thinking about the project plan questions and the heuristic, and then we'll see you tomorrow. And thank you, Brad. Thank you, Brad, for introducing the second topic or this topic. And if there's anybody else, it's volunteer, who wants to introduce one of the topic, please feel free. So, but I'm around, so I can stick around, but otherwise anybody else can go now. You're off on your own, and then enjoy your afternoon.
Thank you so much. Have a great week. Or else.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Brad. You did very well. You guys are great. So good. I really, really like what you did, and it was very, very informal, very simple, but very, very powerful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.